We'll go ahead and get started. First of all, I want to thank you all for joining us. I know it's a weekend and it's your free time, so we'll try to keep this as brief as possible. But again, thank you for attending this afternoon's meeting. I just wanted to go around and I'll introduce myself first for those who don't know who I am. My name is Jessica. I am the Assistant State Advisor for New Jersey HOSA. You will see Dr. Gene Napoliello, that he is the State Advisor. Dr. Gene, you want to say hello?
Hi, everyone. I hope everyone's safe and healthy. Good to be together again.
And then we have Miss Lucille Jones. She's one of our program consultants. Lucille, if you just say hi or wave so people know where you are. Thank you. And then we have Mrs. Amy Berkemeyer. She is another one of our program consultants. Her area is more so in the competitive events. She's our competitive events guru, and she is now also working with National HOSA in their competitive events as well. So grateful to have everybody here. So I guess just to get started, I'm assuming everyone has a copy of the agenda. If not, I can send it in the chat if you don't have it. I emailed it. But just to do a brief recap of our virtual state conference, given everything, it went extremely well. We had over 800 people registered and compete. That's pretty close to our in-person numbers. Typically, our in-person numbers are 900, almost 1,000 people. So we were still able to really maintain that momentum, the excitement with our students. And again, I think a lot of the credit goes to you guys, given the situation, with different instructional models, not able to see them as frequent in communication, breaking down sometimes, but even despite all that, we still had a great attendance in terms of our numbers. And then I think there were some technical issues, but again, I think we were able to really work those things out and get everything. I think overall, it really ran smoothly. And I know, Dr. Gene, you wanted to talk about the Osha competitive events specifically a little bit.
Yes, this year was the first year that we conducted a competitive event for the Osha, Occupational Safety and Health Administration Agency. There was an act that created the agency and the administration. This is back in 1970. So for the last several years, we've done a test, and we did it again this year. There were 22 people signed up for that test, which was very good. And I might add that of the top 5 places, 4 of them came from secondary students from one school, Livingston High School. And then the 5th person, get you ready for this one? A 7th grader, a middle school student, placed 5th, received a medal and a certificate, as the others did. But I'm especially proud because it's the first time we've ever had a 7th grader taking an exam with secondary students and placing 5th. So that is just absolutely amazing. We're thrilled. I'm thrilled about that. And it was the daughter of Dr. Nasser Masri, who is the North Tech chapter advisor. So his own daughter placed higher than his own students on that exam. So quite a happening. So that's the results of the exam. I think there were a total of, out of 22 people, Jessica, how many passed total? 14, was it? 12 or 14? You're on mute, I think.
I'm sorry, almost half passed.
Almost half passed, which is okay. However, we will continue to work with the Osha program because the Osha program is so essential to students going out and doing internships in any healthcare facility, whether it's medical, dental, or you have it, whatever you name it. We want to make sure that when we place students in internships that they're aware, they have a safety awareness. And taking the exam, of course, they can study online. There's student study guide, a PowerPoint, both on the website of New Jersey HOSA. So teachers, you have a curriculum for the students. You don't have to teach it in class if you don't want to, if you can't squeeze it in there. If you can, fine, so much the better. But this material is online. Again, there's a PowerPoint, a student study guide, and a video. The video was done by Dr. Carolyn Breen and me. So there are three things that you can refer these students to. And I would suggest that the students be able to be aware of this information before you place them in any type of facility for a volunteer service or even a paid job. The other issue with the OSHA this year was a competitive event, and we had one competitor enter, and they achieved a high score. They achieved a first place score. So that was the first time that OSHA has had its own competitive event. This competitive event is only for New Jersey. If you go to the International Leadership Conference, you can have your students go into the academic testing center and take an OSHA exam. Now that exam is actually an OSHA exam. It's not an OSHA awareness. It's not safety awareness at all. It's actually the exam on the ILC was done by the Career Safe company. So it's a different exam altogether. But the students, if your students have taken the OSHA 10-hour course, we call it the OSHA 10, then certainly that would prepare them to take the OSHA exam at International in the Academic Testing Center. Are there any questions on the two events and also the OSHA event at ILC? Anybody right now? I'll if it's not clear, I can clear it up. Go ahead.
Yeah, Dr. Jean, I have put it in the chat too. My kids were the kids who did the one team for the event with the presentation. They were asking if they get like a certification as well, since they did do the test as well.
Okay.
Sorry,
The students who took competed, and thank you. That was Union that came in first. Way to go, Union. They get a certificate from New Jersey HOSA. It'll be mailed to them, right, Jessica? We have this certificate, and they'll get their medal as well. But they don't get a certification because it's a safety awareness given by us, New Jersey HOSA. So it's not an industry recognized certificate like the OSHA 10. It's not that at all. It's certainly, if they have that certificate and they go for a job, and to convince or allay the apprehension on the part of the employer that they don't know, to make sure they know something about OSHA safety awareness. And this doesn't include the COVID protocols. That is a very effective way of saying to the employer, I'm aware of what's going on here. I take safety very, seriously. It's in my portfolio here and my documents, along with my application for a job. Okay. That answer the question? Okay, thank you. Anyone else? All right, seeing none, then Jessica, we'll go back to you, please.
Okay, then I guess just in terms of keeping up with the state conference, just to touch briefly, we did give out scholarships this year. And given the fact that our expenditures were naturally a little bit lower because of our virtual setting, and with COVID obviously putting some financial strain on our members as well, we did decide to do a increase in our scholarship amount this year. If you saw the award ceremony, you would have we were able to give out 5 scholarships this year, but we did increase the amounts of those scholarships to, again, this is sort of a one-time thing. Every year is contingent depending on our funds, but we thought in terms of, since we had the money available and given the fact, expenditures were obviously lower with the virtual setting, it would be a good way to give back to our students, especially given the financial strain with COVID. So congratulations to those students who won the scholarships, and I have been in touch with them, so they know what the next steps are to claim that award. Let's see. Other than that, we also, as for our state conference, as you guys are aware, we had the election process for our council for the upcoming year. Again, given virtual, I have to commend our other consultant who's on, but I don't know if she's technically on, Shawnee Chaudhry.
I'm here.
Okay, I wasn't sure if you were actually present, and I'm sorry I forgot to introduce you
Oh,
in
you're
the
good.
beginning. But she is another of our program consultants, and she's our state officer coach. So again, credit and kudos to Shawnee and the rest of the council in really kind of making this year, still interesting and engaging for our members with their workshops, with really reformatting the election process. So Shawnee, do you mind just saying a few words about how it went on your end with the council about that process?
Yeah, sure. So we really wanted to figure out a way so that we didn't just have the speech and the flyers as criteria to understand what the candidates' platforms were. And we wanted to allow them a little bit more creativity and be able to explore that process a little bit more. So instead of just a standard speech in front of a camera, we made it so that they were able to make a video that showed their personality a little bit more, and they were able to be a little bit more engaging. So that was one thing that we wanted to do to make it a little bit more fun and also a little bit more like National HOSA does. And then secondly, we also didn't spend time showing those videos during the campaign session itself. We made sure everyone watched it prior. We also gave them the flyer prior as well, so they were able to really understand all the candidates before even coming to our virtual candidate session. And then when we had our virtual candidate session, we wanted to make it so that they had enough time to get to know them beyond that. And so we had fishbowl questions. And so there were position specific ones where each group of, say, secretaries all got the same question, but they didn't hear the answer from the other person. So that allowed them to compare a little bit, given the same prompt, how would each of them answer? And then afterwards, each of them got a random question to just show how they answer on the spot and a little bit more of a fun question there. And then lastly, we gave time for the voting delegates to ask questions. That's something we were lacking last year just because for the sake of time, we weren't able to get to, but we wanted to make sure that voting delegates got to hear what mattered to them most. So we had time for that as well. And then we had our voting, which we did end up having a runoff because they were so close for most of the votes. We had a lot of great candidates, so the students had a tough time deciding, but ultimately we elected our 8 individuals and it went well. If you want, you can also watch the entire session aside from the voting piece on our YouTube channel. So urge you to do so if you would like to see the candidates a little bit more.
I would like to add to that report that going forward, I would encourage your students to apply for the state officer position.
Yeah.
It is a learning position. If the student has the interest and the passion, sometimes they think that, well, maybe I'm not qualified, but we do a lot of, Shawnee does, I should say, a lot of training with these students, spends a lot of time with them. So we can develop talent at any level. It's up to the student to really, it's up to the student to want to apply. And we hope that the chapter advisors would encourage students to do it.
Yeah.
I mean, sometimes it needs a little, they just need a little push. So given that, we welcome as many applicants as possible. Thank you.
I would also like to say that even going through the campaigning process or the interview process or the exam process, even if you get cut prior to being able to campaign, you get such out of it because you start learning, where do you need to improve, and it gives you something to work off of. And I think a lot of students, even those who don't maybe make it as far, they still appreciate being able to go through the process because they get to
Yeah.
really test certain things out that they wouldn't get to otherwise in school.
Yeah. Very good. Thanks for, that's what I was trying to say too.
I believe, Debbie, you have a question?
Yes, I do. Hello. So this is something I've been wondering. This is my 4th year here with HOSA. And I never know what to tell the students in terms of like time commitment and, I'm sure, I think I've seen like, what are the requirements and stuff for a state officer, but like, as an advisor, what are some things that I can help tell them? I am aware of the benefits, but I'm also concerned about time commitment and, how have previous state officers juggled the fact that they're still students on top of everything else?
Yeah. So obviously it's very variable, especially throughout the year. Conference times are a little bit more busy compared to, let's say, like right after state conferences. There's not much going on, right? But I think it really depends also on the student and their ambitions. There are some students who don't put in as much, and then there are some students who really dedicate to it and put more time into it. I don't think it's as low commitment as some clubs, right? It definitely is a higher commitment club in comparison because it's a thing you're choosing to prioritize as a state officer. It's kind of an extra honor that you get to do. But I would definitely think it's manageable, especially if you are good at not doing everything last minute, right? Because with conferences, if you can manage your schedule, for example, our president-elect right now, he was really busy with certain things for school. So then he made his candidate video this day after it was due, the day after, it was assigned. So, if you do that, then you're not waiting until the times that you're actually busy. So I think there are ways to make it work regardless of schedule, but it definitely needs someone who wants to do it in order to not feel overwhelmed.
But Shawnee, in terms of the number of meetings, would be a monthly
Right.
meeting with the executive committee itself, and then the conferences. That's
And there are
another.
meetings beyond the council meeting as well with the actual team itself, but those, it really depends when they are, but definitely like Dr. Jean is saying, there's that constant monthly meeting. There
Well-
are smaller meetings within the group. And then there are also conferences like Dr. Jean is saying. So there's the Fall Leadership Conference in October timeframe. There's Northern Regional in January, Southern Regional in early February, typically. And then we have state conference in.
Could we develop a list of all of that and then send it out to all the chapter advisors? That would be a good idea, I think, if you actually put it down on paper.
Sure.
Can I?
Yeah, Michelle.
Okay.
Yeah, I want to add.
Oh,
go ahead. I want to add a couple of things. One, being a state officer, the students develop good time management habits. And also at the beginning of the year, during the summer, a calendar is put together for the state officers. And I'm thinking, Dr. Jean, that calendar should be the basis for all advisors, whether you have a state officer or not. At least having that year calendar, and sometimes we have to revise it, but I've seen students every year I've been associated with HOSA. They start out a little rough, but very shortly they become good managers of their time and good producers. Okay. Thank you.
Yeah, one thing I'd like to add as well, having been a chapter advisor for over 20 years, and having many state officers, is that when we return to normal, whatever that means, the meetings are held in person, so that the school has to be aware of that, and the advisor there needs to be a chaperone with the students, whether it's the advisor or the school appoints somebody else. There has to be transportation to and from the meetings. Students, minors cannot attend by themselves. If a parent is involved, they have to then come with the student and stay on site. So there is a commitment not only for the state officer for attending the meetings, that, and then if a state officer is from the northern region, they are also expected and required to attend the Southern Regional Conference and vice versa, and both days of the state conference. So there is a commitment, and it's not just, what do I do, in between meetings, but the meetings are very, very important. And in the virtual world, obviously, you can have a meeting anytime and it's from your home. But again, the full commitment involves the school's approval, and then, the ability to, attend the in-person meetings when we go back to that format. So I just wanted to add that in.
Also, just another comment about the time commitment with the students as well as the parents. Once that list is developed, in addition to being sent to the advisors, it would also be helpful to have all this information posted on the
On the
HOSA
website.
website for New
Exactly.
Jersey, so that at
Yeah.
any time a
Yes.
student, an advisor would have access to that information. Thank you.
Carolyn, why don't you introduce yourself, because we went through introductions.
Oh, I was here from the beginning.
Oh, you were?
Oh, yeah, I've been on
Okay.
since the beginning.
I'm sorry.
An education consultant for New Jersey HOSA, and I work closely with Dr. Jean on the Osha training. So I'm
Thank you.
really, really pleased, because that was his great passion for this year, and finally coming to fruition. So
Thank you.
congratulations to Dr. Jean. Thank you.
I also just wanted to add, Shawnee, I think the students created like a PowerPoint or something like that, or
they
some
have
sort of documentation.
Right. They
So,
have a PowerPoint about their duties that they shared with everyone who applied for state office. They also have, I think they have some type of document before that they made about running for state office in general that they sent out during fall leadership conference to students. So I'm going to ask Angelina about that and see if I can just make that work and not have to create a new thing. I might just like combine those two and send those two out. So I'll let you know.
okay, because I remember seeing something and I didn't want it the
Yeah.
wheel to be reinvented. So that way we could make it, put it on the website.
Agreed.
Okay. And I guess just in general, from an advisor perspective, any feedback or suggestions as we go forward into the new year? I really hope we get to see each other in the upcoming year, but being a realist, we have to, we're going to prepare, think virtually, as well. But so going forward and after almost living another year and a half in this virtual world, is there anything that we need to keep in mind, or you have any feedback or suggestions for us to keep in mind for the upcoming year?
And this is specifically regarding the state officer process and the advisors.
Or anything in general. I mean, we've done now 4 conferences virtually now, but just in general as well, not just specifically for state officers.
No, we did state, and then we.
Would it be,
Yeah, I mean, something that.
I'm hoping this isn't. Oh, sorry, you go, Debbie.
No, sorry. It's just that, like I said, I'm feeling a lot more comfortable with HOSA as I've been trying to learn things as my own, not necessarily on my own. Obviously, a lot of you that I've interacted with at conferences has always really helped.
Debbie answered. She had.
And my main thing now is like, how do I move? Because I am at a traditional quote unquote high school. How do I move and towards now kind of making this not just a club, but now a possibly a class, or how do I get like medical courses and whatnot at my school, right? Because we're not a vocational school, but there has been this strong kind of group of students that have this is what they want to do. And as I interact with more students in the hallways or when I talk to them, it's like, oh, you're interested in medicine, like come do HOSA. But because it's a club, it's not something that's really in their faces. Now, if it's a class, maybe that's something that could push more students towards this, and I can support them more in this sense. in my capacity. I'm a physics teacher, so like my knowledge is,
So
I'm learning.
What school do you represent?
I'm at Paramus High School.
Paramus.
Paramus High School, yes.
Isn't that where one of our former HOSA advisors from Union is now there, your vice principal?
Alicia Angel,
About,
Thomas Monturi.
Passaic, Dr. Jane.
Am I mistaken here?
Thinking about Passaic.
I'm thinking about Passaic, sorry. Thank you, thank you, Jessica. Okay, well, Paramus High School doesn't have, you know, at one point in time, you could join the Rutgers Health Science Careers Program. Have you heard of that, Debbie?
Yes, I've heard of it.
Okay, did anybody at Paramus ever pursue it?
No, because this is the first, since a student approached me about starting HOSA, this is the first time that
Oh, okay.
there has
all
been
right.
really any advocacy towards incorporating more medical functions. I see a lot of
Mhm.
people with their hands up.
Dr. Jean,
Yes,
it's Lucille.
I hear you.
Okay. HOSA has a lot of information. You're a physics teacher, right? Debbie? Yes.
Yes.
Okay. If you have a curriculum coordinator, you want to start a class, there are a couple of things that you have to do. You have to, number one, talk to your building administrator, the principal, and tell them what your idea is. You should have in your district a curriculum coordinator. There are certain standards that are published at the state level that guide possible courses. One of the courses that was offered in one of the schools that I worked at, it met some of the science standards, and it was called Health Occupations. And it was an exploratory course, okay? But when we put the curriculum together, it coincided with some of the standards set for certain science classes. And we developed a curriculum that met that particular requirement, and it was counted toward their number of credits they need for graduation. And it was taken as an elective. But there are two people you need to talk to in your district. That's your building administrator, the principal, and you need to find out who your district curriculum coordinator is. Okay? But that's where you start.
Thank you.
Nicole, I think you had a question or a comment.
I'm hoping that this isn't the case and that we can be together for states next year. Because if we're not, whew. But would it be possible if we think about modeling it like kind of how like ILC did last year with some of the team events, just with them like, because I know last year like creative problem solving and like Parley Pro were easier to do it with obviously than like HOSA Ball, but like where the kids got the problem and they created a video to be judged, just so that like some of them get like the practice before they head over, you know, to ILC, just something to think about.
And I think our biggest constraint with that was honestly judges. So because, you know, the more materials that we have, it's harder to get judges. And then, again, I get it, you know, everybody's got their hands full, especially with virtual setting. So we tried, you know, at least this year we tried to pick, I guess, at least the best middle path as possible and try to do what we could, I guess, quote unquote, in person on Zoom. So, but definitely we'll try to, you know, keep that in mind if we have to do virtual again next year, because like you said, ILC is a little bit different. They have obviously a little bit, you know, manpower and judges, and it's, you know, and it's great for our students to kind of, the more we can replicate ILC, obviously the more prepared that they will be. So that is always a goal, but, you know, we'll keep that in mind. You know, we always try to keep that in mind, you know, for every upcoming year.
Could you repeat the specific request, Nicole?
Oh, just because like, I know, I'm assuming ILC is running the same as last year with the virtual sense, where the team events, the kids were able to like for creative problem solving,
Yeah.
they submit a video presentation. And like Parley Pro, they did a meeting and they submitted they videotaped it. So it gave them a chance to still do both rounds without just sitting, and actually like work together. And
Just to chime in, since I'm working with the national group this year, there's tremendous changes coming for ILC this year. I would urge everybody to go on the National HOSA website and click on competitive events, not competitive events, click on conferences, and then you can see what ILC, there's going to be a lot more virtual, in person, if you will, presentations. And again, tremendous amount of changes coming. So definitely look into that. And then what we might be able to learn from that in the state of New Jersey. And of course, I'm not a real technical person. I'm learning as I'm going. But then maybe if we have to do virtual next year, that we could learn from them. Now, one of the big things to know for those of you who are having students going into health professions and emergency preparedness events, they're going to be it's not just test only this year.
Mhm.
It is going to include sim labs where there will be a specific event or two hands-on skill that students will be able to look at, and that they have an assigned time. They will be interacting with judges, and they will be shown something on a virtual platform where they have to go through and pick out different things and answer questions, etc. So it's very, very, very different from that. And one thing that I wanted to, include, this is a little bit off topic, but it is discussing competitive events. It's extremely important for advisors to be actively involved in helping their students. And it starts day one by reading through every single event guideline to help your student select an event for which they're most likely to be successful. For example, there's so many more traditional high schools on board right now, which is absolutely wonderful to see New Jersey HOSA and National HOSA grow. But if you don't have the medical equipment, it's kind of hard for a student to say do nursing assisting or dental science. How do you see the dental patient when you don't have access to a dental chair? And this isn't, I'm a realist, not a downer, but there's so many options within HOSA. They can do a test only event in the health sciences. They can do a leadership event. Job seeking is another example where I judged that at the state level. And sadly, there were some students who didn't read the event guideline accurately and were applying to jobs to be a physical therapist or a doctor. And when you're in high school, you have to read the event guideline, which clearly states you apply for a job for which you have received training or are currently being trained. Another example would be if a student is enrolled in an EMT program, they should not compete in CPR. It clearly states that. And one last thing, piece of advice in reading through the event guidelines, page after page after page, and some of them are quite long, is many of the emergency preparedness events and the health professions events, the students have to bring equipment with them. They're required to bring equipment. For example, in EMT, the list of equipment for the students to bring as a team is 15 items. They have to bring it with them. So if you don't have access to that equipment, that kind of, that doesn't help your student. So there's so many different options. And again, if you have questions about that, certainly reach out to the New Jersey HOSA office. They will refer the question to me. I'm glad to help in any way, shape, or form. Again, having been through this for so many years with my students, we all want our students to be successful, but it begins and ends with the event guidelines. And you have to be as proficient as your students really in the event guidelines. So if anybody has any further questions about that, don't hesitate to reach out.
Is there any other feedback or suggestions for us? Okay, perfect. but like, obviously, if you ever think of anything or have any questions, concerns, comments, anything, obviously reach out to myself or Dr. Jean, and then, we can work to get that resolved. Okay, so moving on, now onwards to ILC. Yes, ILC is again going to be virtual this year. The dates for that are June 23rd through the 26th. If you go to ilc.hosa.org, you'll see a lot of information about the conference. And again, that is updating daily with an agenda, workshop titles, seminars, different kinds of entertainment that they're going to be providing for the conference. So the registration should be open on the conference management system, hopefully within the next couple of days. That is the same online, the website that you use for registering for local conferences. You will still use that website to register for your students as a chapter for ILC as well. I believe also that if students want to register as individual members, I believe National HOSA is going to allow them to register as individuals as well and pay on their own via credit card like they did last year. So there are a variety of options to register for the conference. So in the cost per person is now $60 per person. I know it was a little bit less last year, but that does include obviously access to all of the workshops, seminars, the competitive events, of course. And I believe that also includes one academic testing center exam. As Dr. G mentioned earlier, there's about 14 different areas of testing that students can sign up for. It's separate from the competitive events. It's not a placing where they can get a medal for, I believe, but they will get some sort of recognition. And I think they get a certain number, I guess the state gets a certain number of points that adds towards, I guess, or the state rankings. But the students get recognition for taking those exams as well. So they can either do the $60, which includes everything else along with one academic testing center exam, or they can sign if they are not eligible for ILC, if they didn't place in the top 3, or if they didn't compete at all for state, they are still welcome to register just for the academic testing center for $20 a test at a maximum of 4 exams if they want to. So there are, again, a variety of options for students to participate, even for those who did, like I said, who competed and placed or didn't place or didn't compete at all. So it's, there's a lot available for those students. The registration deadline is May 15th. So, and again, that's a hard stop once. So please remind your students that if they want to register, that, they get it, that they're aware of the deadline. And then again, once they are registered, that is final. There are no refunds. So again, please do remind your students of that so they are aware of that as well. And again, like I said, the registration should be open pretty soon on the online, the conference management system. So again, individual membership or chapter membership, either way. And the payment will go directly to National HOSA. It will not come to us. I'm just looking at questions here in the chat. Will they have to register for $60, an additional $20 if they not qualify? Kathy, no, because in the $60, there's one, it includes one test, academic test. But I think, yes, actually I take that back. Yes, if you wanted to sign up for another one, then it would be an additional $20 per test. So the 60 includes one, and then you can take, I guess, a maximum of 3 more academic testing center exams. So that would max out at 4.
So if they just wanted to do the independent exams, they would have to pay the $60 and then an additional $20 for each test then.
It was grown.
If they are competing at national, then they pay the 60, which includes one exam. But if they're not doing one of the regular competitive events, then they would just do the $20 per test at the academic
Without the
testing.
registration.
Say that again?
Without the registration, they could just do the $20 then.
Correct,
Great, thank you.
but up to 4 exams, so it could be a total of 80. Correct. So are there any other questions about ILC? Most of the info, like I said, most of the information is there on their website, ilc.hosa.org. And again, they're updating it every day, and you should be able to register your students. I'm hoping by next week that registration tile will show up in the online system, and you can go ahead and register for your
Jessica,
chapter.
the New Jersey HOSA information for registration, maybe they should know about that too.
Wait, real quick, just a correction. So it's not ilc.hosa.org anymore because of the website change that they did, that rebrand. So now it's hosa.org/ILC.
Oh, thank you, Shani.
HOSA.org, okay.
Dr. Jean, you were asking me about,
Total registrations for the conference, including the jersey, our pins and everything that we provide.
well, we are not providing anything extra this year. So it's just the $60.
So they know that. I mean, because usually it's the additional monies.
Well, usually when we were going in person, we would
Right.
add on additional costs for t-shirts and pins and et cetera, but because we are not doing that this
So
year.
it's kind of it's a little bit more affordable.
Yes.
Actually.
Yes. So yes, I mean, typically we would have charged, I believe, 115 at the state level, which includes the national portion plus our portion to cover the cost of
Right.
those t-shirts, pins, and I want to call them noisemakers, but the word's not coming to me. But
Actually, what Kathy Biankowski said was, you could take the exam for $20 alone. That's even a better deal than we offer, because our state exams were $25, right?
yeah,
So that's a better deal. So it's getting better and better, actually.
Yeah, one thing I'd like to add is also National HOSA is looking for professionals to be judges. There's actually, again, if you go to the National HOSA website and click on conferences, there's a place where you can sign up. It's online sign up. And they're looking for people who have an expertise in a particular event. They ask what you might be interested in, what your background is, and then they will try their very, very best. It says that to assign you to an event for which you're qualified to judge. And also by looking at the calendar that's available on that site, you can see what days and how many hours are involved for being, a judge for these events. And we really do need people to volunteer. For those who have never been to an ILC in person, actually they do even ask the states to go through the state advisor to, assign people to participate in events. When I went to national conferences, I've judged events, I've been an event manager. It can't run on its own. So we do need volunteers. So please look at the schedule. It is the last week of June. And how many hours, what day, and then if you are able to, please, consider becoming a judge. It's a great way to learn. And hopefully again, next year we might be in Nashville. That would be awesome. So fingers crossed. So thank you.
That's Music City, Amy.
Oh, I know. I've been there. It's wonderful.
And
it's wonderful.
I have a little saying, a little story to tell about that. Does anybody know what you get when you play a country record backwards? You never heard that one? You get back your guitar, your car, your horse, your girl. But we were there several years ago. We had a great time. Music City is wonderful. It's relaxed. It's nice. So we hope they can attend. I just want to add to the ILC discussion after that was a joke, you see. But I'm going to be doing a workshop this year, which is very unusual. On February 18th, I had an aortic valve placement done. And it was done through the artery in the leg. They didn't have to do open heart surgery. So it's called the TAVR, transarterial valve replacement, TAVR. So I signed up to do a workshop. I have all the information. I wrote it down when I was in the hospital, and I have slides and pictures. So I'm anxious to do this, to give the students a perspective of a patient from a state advisor. It's kind of unusual. So who would have ever expected, when you get involved in these things, that something like this would happen? There's always surprises and good things that come along. And it's wonderful because I can share that. And these students are very eager to learn, especially when you can give them hey, I'm a walking aortic valve replacement patient. Then it becomes more real. And it's certainly, I have a story to tell. During that process, I never realized how important nurses were and how many they are. Of course, Amy's a nurse, but the nurses make the world go around in hospitals. I never realized how many there were. There was a nurse for every possible procedure. So therefore, there is a career option, more career options than I even knew existed in medical for our students. So we certainly can share. That's one of the things I will be sharing in the workshop. How many different types of nurses and paraprofessionals, professionals in general that I ran into. I never even knew there was a cardiovascular technologist who stops bleeding. I mean, this was totally new to me. So it's great to learn about these things because we can share them with our students. Thank you.
Are there any other questions regarding ILC?
Yes, I had a question. I'm sorry, everybody. I have so many questions.
Okay.
No, I've been asking a lot of stuff. Yes, I'm sorry, Mark. So for I was looking on the website to look for more information as to how the events are run at the virtual conference. I'm not quite finding anything at the moment, but I know Amy had mentioned something about the health professions events being done on simulations. And is there any way to prepare students for that?
They're going to be sending out a lot more information within the next couple of weeks to help with that. So just keep checking the website. And what I can do is, as I learn certain things, I'll go through, Dr. Jean and Jessica, and then they can, disseminate information as well to help, those of us in New Jersey.
Okay, I appreciate that. And then for the team events, are those done like live on video or is it a pre-recording?
I think it depends on the event.
Absolutely. That's what I was going to say. Yeah.
It'll specify. And actually, I just put the link in the chat. So Debbie, hosa.org/virtual-CE. And then when you go to that website, you'll see a tab that says event modifications. So it'll list by event what are the requirements, if it's Zoom recording, what they have to submit, if they have to submit something on Tallo. So it'll specify for each event what is required.
Yeah, I saw that. I just couldn't click it, and I didn't know if that's my computer or.
Oh no, but again, they're updating it every day. So I think definitely after the deadline, it should be complete. I'm assuming, Amy, you probably know more about that.
Yeah, again, it's just we have tons of meetings coming up, and things are actually evolving day by day by day. So it's overwhelming, and I do understand that. But they are definitely learning from what happened last year, and they want to improve the opportunities for the students.
Right. And yeah, and I mean, like, I didn't know what happened last year, so I have no perspective at all. And then my last question is, this time usually falls with graduation and stuff. And so like, what happens if there is something that is according to the conference and that happens to happen at the same time as some graduation event?
It's a good question. Yeah,
Yeah,
I
good
don't know.
question. Yeah, I think if it really is a conflict, I think you can let me know and I could reach out to National HOSA to see if something can be done. I think, but I don't have a definitive answer for that. But yeah, if there's a major conflict, just reach out to me and then we'll see if we can work something out. Yeah, it always crashes with seniors. It's always that last week in June. I know there's a lot going on. But yeah, but hopefully with it being virtual, it provides a little bit more flexibility and as well. Any other questions? Okay, well then moving on to a couple of housekeeping items. I have been reaching out to advisors about any outstanding balances for the year for our local conferences. So thank you all for those who replied and gave me updates or said you're working on it, and I really appreciate your help getting that taken care of for the year, and working with your administration to get the balances paid. And again, we totally understand that with different instruction formats and hybrid and seeing students some days and not seeing them others, it can get a little chaotic. So we totally understand, but just putting those things on your radar, especially before the end of the year, to help us get those balances paid off. And I also request that you look and just double check on when you sign in on the conference management system that your affiliation dues have been paid for the year. If you have any questions about how to access that, or want to confirm if everything's paid or not paid, you can always reach out to me as well, or you can sign on to that website and see what your balances are. Another housekeeping item, coming up for the 2021-2022 year, we are looking for a new home for HOSA. Middlesex County VOTEC will not be renewing the grant for next year or for the next 4-year cycle. So we are in the process of looking for another home. We have been in talks with a couple of districts, a few districts actually, and a couple of the local colleges, Brookdale, Kane as well, to talk to see if they are willing to take us in. So we're in the process of doing that. Unfortunately, we may not have an answer until the summertime. It really all depends on when the State Department of Education releases that application, and it opens that application for someone to apply. But if you have any suggestions, or if your district is willing to host HOSA for the upcoming cycle, please do reach out to me. But other than that, we should hopefully have an answer. I'm hopeful by the end of the summer as to where we're going to be for the upcoming cycle year. Lucille?
Yeah, as an FYI, would you give the advisors the last date that this year's grant would be? Because there is an ending date for this year's grant.
Yes, we will be officially at Middlesex until August 31st.
Right.
So September 1st, we will roll over in the new grant cycle with the new location. I think that's all that I have. Team, do you have any other? Go ahead, Shani.
For the timings for some of the events, I found on the ILC website, just if you click on an event, it'll tell you generally what you should expect for time commitment, just for the competitive events. I don't know beyond that necessarily, but this might help you with any of your students figuring out what they would need to attend. So just sent that into the chat.
Thank you, Shani. But that is all that I have. Team, is there anything that I missed, forgot? Anyone have any comments or questions?
I have an additional item, an announcement that there are 2 schools in Newark, New Jersey, the Newark Tech and Central High School, they have dental assisting programs, and those students will be going to the dental school for an internship. They do it every year, and that internship will be continuing this year. And it's interesting because before we bring the students down there, we're going to be using the OSHA test to make sure they pass the OSHA safety awareness exam. Okay, that's very, very important. And the other thing is that just skipped my mind. I went to OSHA and I forgot what the other thing was. But they will be participating in that, and I think that's good because anytime we can take an internship program and have it be effective, certainly at this level, at a dental school level. The other thing was the COVID test. In order for those students to go down there this year, they have to be tested for COVID 1 week before they go to the dental school. So the two requirements then that we have are, exactly what's happening out here in society, COVID testing and then the safety awareness. So we continue to try and develop internships at other facilities, especially hospitals. But I have to tell you, every time we talk to a hospital, they're very concerned about the students' safety. So that's why it's important that chapter advisors are aware of the safety awareness materials and that they encourage their students to do a self-study or work with the chapter advisor. So thank you very much. That's all I have to say, Jessica.
Okay, if any, did anyone have other comments or questions?
No, great.
Okay, well, if not, like I said, as you go forward and start registering students for ILC or have any other questions or concerns, don't hesitate to reach out to me or Dr. Jean. And again, thank you guys for coming. I know on a Saturday, we really appreciate it. Unfortunately, we got you out of here in under an hour, just an hour. But as you go forward, if you have any questions or concerns, don't hesitate to reach out. All right.
Bye,
Thank you.
everyone.
Okay.
And by the way, my cell phone number is in the chat if you need to contact me.